This is Chris from Fitness Fail, and today I want to talk a little bit about core strength training. This has got to be one of the most overused buzzwords in the training world right now. It's right up there with functional as a word that people use all the time and use incorrectly, and it's becoming really meaningless because it's overused so much. Core strength training is intended to improve the ability of the extremities to transmit force, either from the lower body to the upper body or vice versa. Give me this example. Raina, come up here for a second. Just to pull from a sport that's pretty familiar to most people. If you think of like the football player drive, generating force in the lower body, my core is acting as a hinge. If we can keep that tight, we can deliver more force to her. We can think of a lot of examples the other way. A climber, just transmitting force in the lower body through the upper body, keeping her feet on steep terrain. A lot of applications there. Significant part is if you look at the midsection there, it's an isometric contraction, meaning you're staying in the same position. You're not moving through range of motion there. It's the ability of the core to hold a position against resistance. There are many times in sports where you're going to be called upon to do a crunching motion. If you do crunches, you're going to get better at doing crunches, surprisingly. So what we're interested in is isometric loading and loading that where you can get to a high enough level for it to have some practical applications. See a trend a lot lately where people were borrowing things from the rehabilitation world, intentionally unstable surfaces. You're forcing the core to stabilize. You see people squatting on the air balls. I have a slosh pipe right here. It's actually really fun, unstable training apparatus. It's half full of water, so this shifts around a lot. Now this is a fun toy. It does force a lot of core stabilization as I keep this thing steady. The downside is the amount of force you can produce is really limited by these. So much so that I think for any real world training it's pretty limited. It's good for rehabilitation where you're interested in getting people back to being functional, but for athletic performance I really don't think it's all that effective. I think primarily ground-based free weight lifts where you're moving around enough weight to actually see some strength gains. You also want to look at things where you're forcing the core to stabilize the position. So one of the things I think is really effective for that are Turkish get-ups. Now if you look around on the internet you'll find a bunch of tutorials in Turkish get-ups, or primarily with kettlebells. I've got a kettlebell here, and I've got to stress I like doing these with kettlebells. I think they're a good movement, but the weak point here is usually the ability of the shoulder joint to stabilize. Angle okay? So I'm doing the lunge style here. There are different ways you can do these. But the basic movement is going from here, keeping your arm locked out. Now I'm posting out and rolling onto my side. This is not a sit-up. Posting out here, up onto these 2 points of support. I'm pulling this leg back into lunge position, getting up, go back down, that's 1 rep. Now this hits just about every muscle in the body, but obviously the requirements to stabilize the midline are really high, getting a bunch of different angles, great movement all around. But as I said, you've got this wobbly weight at the end of your arm, arm's a lever, ability of the shoulder to stabilize that is usually what goes first. So I found that by taking the shoulder joint out of the equation, using a sandbag, you get much better results for the core. So I've got 2 sandbags here. These are pretty easy to make. A bunch of tutorials for more involved designs. I just got some play sand in an army surplus duffel bag and threw it in there. It cost about $20 each. For one here it's about 55 pounds, one that's 35. It's the same basic motion. This is unstable enough that it presents a bit of a challenge. So same motion, rolling onto the side here, up onto my shoulder. That's 1. Obviously important to make sure you do both sides. Now you'll see people doing these with a squat style. Give you an example. I'm going to grab my lighter one for this. Rather than pulling the leg back for a lunge, you're right up, pull back into a squat position, and up. Now that's fine. It's a little more difficult, but you really have to watch the lower spine. A lot of people don't have the flexibility to do that one safely. So Raina, why don't you come up here, be our guinea pig with the lighter one again. Critique you learning these a little bit. Yeah, have you done these with the sandbag before?
Nope.
No? Okay. So why don't you shoulder that guy. Good. All right. walk through this. Okay.
So up on my side.
Yeah. Well, post that hand out. Yeah. Now support yourself on this heel and the back hand. Pull back into a lunge position.
Do a lunge.
Yeah, you want that knee on the ground. Yeah, not bad. A little awkward, but you'll get it. And up. Okay, now do the same thing back down. Yeah. Watch your head. Why don't we turn sideways to the camera and get that again? See the learning curve a little bit. Various toys are starting to take up too much room here.
So this way?
Yeah, I want them to be able to see the motion profile.
I hate you.
Alright, post that hand out. Drive off that heel in the hand. Okay. Okay. Not bad. You can tell you need a little time to get comfortable with the motion. Just to give a little feedback for people trying to pick these up, something you saw her do. She was coming up from this position, wasn't really comfortable on this heel, and she was getting really spread out. Looked kind of awkward. You really have to be conscious. When you pull up to here, pull this heel back a bit and plant it. Your weight should be on the heel of the hand behind you and this foot up here like this. I can pull this back nice and tight. All I'm doing is straightening up, standing up. Love little tweaks. Hopefully do another one of these installments, and I'll go over some more core development exercises and try to get people to stop doing crunches and other foo-foo crap.